It is October of 2028. The room is beige. The lighting is fluorescent. The coffee is stale. This is the Midwest Agricultural Technology Summit, a keynote hall in Des Moines, Iowa. Dr. Alistair Finch is on stage. He's a professor from Iowa State, an expert in agricultural engineering. He clicks to the next slide. The slide shows a simple black box, a few cables running from it. It's connected to a laptop. The laptop screen shows lines of code. The title on the slide is simple: The Sera System, Firmware Sovereignty. In the audience, a man named Frank sits. He is 68 years old, retired for 3 years now. He ran the service department at the largest John Deere dealership in the county for 40 years. He is here with his son. His son is a farmer now. Frank leans over. He whispers to his son, "That name, Sera, that's Sarah Jensen, isn't it? From out on Route 7. His son nods. "Yeah, Dad, that's her." Frank looks back at the screen. The professor is talking. He speaks of decentralized repair. He speaks of a farmer's right to fix their own machine. He says the Sera system is now open source. It is used on over 40,000 farms across 6 countries. It bypasses proprietary software locks. It allows farmers to run their own diagnostics. It saves the average user an estimated $8,000 a year. Frank does the math in his head. 40,000 farms, $8,000. The number is too big. He stops trying to calculate it. The professor clicks to the next slide. It's a picture of a barn, an old red barn with a sagging roofline. Next to it, a picture of a boy. He can't be more than 19. He's holding a beat-up gray laptop. The professor's voice fills the quiet room. This entire system was developed in that barn by Sarah Jensen's son, Leo. He started with a $40 laptop he bought at a police auction. Frank feels something he can't quite name. It isn't anger. It isn't regret. Not exactly. It is the cold, clean feeling of a fact. A fact that has been growing in the dark for 5 years. A fact that is now on a projector screen in a beige room. He remembers a conversation from 5 years ago, in his office. The smell of fresh coffee and hydraulic fluid. Sarah Jensen and her son were sitting across from his desk, and he, Frank, had told them no. He had told them it was impossible. This channel tells the stories of people who were told no. We find the quiet stories, the barn stories, the kitchen table stories, the stories that prove the experts wrong. If you believe those stories matter, if you believe the work is enough, subscribe to this channel, because we have 100 more just like it, and you won't want to miss a single one. Let me tell you about that day. It was October of 2023. Harvest was 2 weeks in. The corn was dry. The yields were good. The days were long. Sarah Jensen was running the combine, a 2021 John Deere S780. It was her late husband's last purchase. A machine full of sensors and screens. A machine she never fully trusted, but it was paid for. Cash. That was how the Jensens did things. Her husband, Mark, had a rule. Never owe the bank. Never owe the dealer. The dirt is all that matters. Everything else is just a tool. On a Tuesday morning, the tool stopped working. An error code flashed on the main screen. Limp mode engaged. The combine would start. It would idle. But the moment she tried to engage the header, it shut down. She called the dealership. She spoke to Frank. Frank was a good man. He served on the church council with her, coached her son in Little League baseball. He was a pillar of the community. He sounded concerned, genuinely concerned. He told her he'd send a tech out. The tech arrived 4 hours later, a young man named Kevin. He plugged his laptop into the combine's port. He typed for 20 minutes. He shook his head. "It's a firmware issue," he said. A sensor in the exhaust system is sending a bad signal. The main computer has locked the machine down. It's a software problem, not a hardware problem. Sarah asked him, "Can you fix it?" Kevin looked uncomfortable. He said, "I can't. Not here. The software is proprietary. We have to authorize a reset at the dealership. It's a new security protocol to protect the machine's integrity." Sarah didn't understand what integrity had to do with her corn. Her corn was waiting in the field. Every day it waited, the risk grew. Wind, rain, hail. A single storm could wipe out a third of her income for the year. She asked him again, "What do I need to do?" Kevin looked at his boots. "You have to bring it in, or we have to tow it. It's $150 an hour for the service truck, from the moment I leave the shop to the moment I get back." Sarah did the math. It was a 2-hour round trip. That was $300 just for the ride. She looked at her son, Leo. Leo was 19. He was supposed to be at the state university, studying computer science. But his father had gotten sick, and after his father passed, Leo stayed. He said he'd take a year off, help his mom with the farm. The 1 year was turning into 2. Leo was quiet. He watched the tech pack up his laptop. He asked a simple question. "Can't you just give us the diagnostic code so we can bypass it?" Kevin shook his head. "I don't have it. Only the service manager can authorize that. And he won't. It voids the warranty. Corporate policy." Sarah looked at the sky. Clouds were building in the west. She made a decision. She told Kevin thank you. She would call the dealership. She would talk to Frank. The next morning, she and Leo drove to town. The dealership was a massive building of green steel and glass. It smelled of new paint and new tires. Frank's office was neat. Family photos on the desk. A plaque from the Rotary Club on the wall. He offered them coffee. They said no thank you. Sarah explained the situation, calmly, factually. The corn is ready. The machine is stopped. The problem is software. We need the code to unlock our combine. Frank listened patiently. He nodded in all the right places. He had a kind face, the face of a man who believed he was doing the right thing. When she was finished, he leaned forward. He folded his hands on his desk. "Sarah," he said, "I have known your family for 30 years. I sold Mark his first tractor. I want to help you. I truly do. But my hands are tied. This is a new policy from corporate. The software on these machines is complex. It's not like the old days. You can't just fix it with a wrench. If we give out the codes, people could hurt themselves. They could damage the equipment. They could bypass the emissions controls. The liability is enormous." Leo spoke for the first time. "It's our machine. We paid for it. We should have the right to fix it." Frank gave him a patient smile. The kind of smile you give a smart kid who doesn't understand the world yet. "I understand why you feel that way, son. But you're not just buying the steel anymore. You're licensing the software that runs it. It says so right in the purchase agreement. It's 100 pages long. Nobody ever reads it. But it's in there." Frank felt he was being helpful. He was explaining the reality of the situation. He was protecting them. From themselves. From a complex world they didn't understand. This was not cruelty. It was certainty. And certainty is a wall that kindness builds. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then she asked the question. "So what is the solution, Frank?" Frank cleared his throat. He opened a folder on his desk. "The solution is our gold tier service package. We send a lowboy trailer to your farm. We bring the combine here. Our certified master technician will connect it to the mainframe. He will run the full Tier 4 diagnostic. He will reset the firmware. He will update all the related software modules. We will have it back to you in 3 to 5 business days, depending on the backlog." Sarah waited. She knew there was more. "And the cost?" Frank looked down at the paper. The total cost for the transport, the diagnostic, and the software unlock is $9,500. The room went silent. The only sound was the hum of the lights. $9,500 to unlock a machine they already owned. Leo stood up. He didn't say a word. He just looked at Frank. Then he walked out of the office. Sarah stayed seated. She looked at the man she had known for 30 years. She saw the certainty in his eyes, the genuine belief that this price was fair, that this system was right. She stood up. "Thank you for your time, Frank," she said. She did not say it with anger. She said it with a quiet finality. The drive home was silent. The new clouds were darker now. They pulled into the yard. They sat in the truck. The engine ticked as it cooled. Leo stared at the barn. Sarah stared at her hands. Finally, she spoke. "Your grandfather, he built his first tractor from parts. A Ford Model A engine, a truck transmission, 2 axles from a junkyard. He drew the plans on the back of a feed sack. He didn't ask anyone for permission." She turned to her son. "They took Mark. The cancer did. They can't have the farm." She paused. "They took everything except the dirt and the work. The work is enough." Leo looked at his mother. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, but he saw something else too, something hard and clear, like a diamond. He just nodded. "Okay, Mom," he said. "Let's get to work." Have you ever been told you can't do something? Not by an enemy, but by a friend. By someone who genuinely believed they were protecting you. By someone who was just following the rules. What does that feel like? It's a quiet kind of devastation. It can't be fought with anger. It can only be disproven. With decades of work. Tell us about a time someone told you no, for your own good. Let us know in the comments below. Because what happened next in this barn changed everything. That night, Leo didn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table. He opened his old laptop, a Panasonic Toughbook CF31. He had bought it for $40 at a police auction 2 years ago. It was ugly. Gray plastic, scarred and dented, built to survive a war zone. The screen flickered. The battery was shot. It had to be plugged into work. But it had a serial port. That was the important part. An old-school connection that new laptops didn't have. He went online. He started searching. He typed in the combine's model number, S780. He typed in the error code. He found forums, websites for farmers and independent mechanics. He found threads of conversation from all over the world, Australia, Germany, Brazil, farmers speaking different languages, facing the same problem, a machine held hostage by its own software. He read for hours. He learned about the CAN bus system, the electronic network that connected every component of the combine. He learned about proprietary diagnostic tools, tools that cost dealers $20,000, tools that were useless without a subscription to the manufacturer's server. He found anger. He found frustration. But he also found something else. He found pockets of resistance. Anonymous programmers in Eastern Europe. Gray market hackers in Ukraine. They were writing their own code, reverse engineering the manufacturer's software. It was a digital rebellion, fought in the late hours, on old laptops, in barns and garages around the world. For 3 days, Leo did not work in the fields. He worked in the barn. He ran an extension cord from the house. He set up the Toughbook on an old workbench. He ordered a cable online, a J1939 to serial port adapter. It cost $30. While he waited for it to arrive, he downloaded everything he could find. Fragments of code, diagnostic manuals from older models, encrypted software packages that he had no way to open. His mother brought him food, sandwiches and coffee. She didn't ask what he was doing. She just refilled his cup. She saw the focus in his eyes, the same focus his father had when he was rebuilding an engine. The work is enough. The cable arrived on the 4th day. Leo took the tough book out to the silent combine. He opened a panel below the steering column. He found the port. He plugged it in. He booted up a piece of Russian software he'd found on a forum. The interface was clunky, half in English, half in Cyrillic. He hit connect. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a stream of data began to flow across the screen. Numbers and letters. The secret language of the machine. He felt a jolt, a feeling of trespass, of seeing something he wasn't supposed to see. For 2 days, he sat in the cab of the combine. The engine was off. The only sound was the clicking of the keyboard. He was mapping the network, trying to understand what the codes meant. He wasn't a hacker. He was a translator. He figured out how to isolate the signal from the bad exhaust sensor. He saw the command that the main computer was sending, the command that engaged limp mode. He saw the lock, the digital wall, and he knew, in theory, how to get around it. He had to write a small piece of code, a piece of code that would tell the main computer to ignore the signal from that one sensor, a patch. It was simple in concept. It was terrifying in practice. If he made a mistake, if he sent the wrong command, he could corrupt the entire system. He could turn a $400,000 combine into a $500,000 paperweight. The dealership called on the 5th day. It was Frank. His voice was full of genuine concern. "Sarah," he said, "that storm is coming. The forecast is bad. Are you sure you don't want us to come get the machine? We can put a rush on it." Sarah was standing in the doorway of the barn. She was watching her son. She told Frank thank you, but not today. Maybe tomorrow. She was buying her son time. That night, Leo was ready. He had written the code. It was 17 lines long. He had checked it 100 times. He took a deep breath. He uploaded the patch. He hit execute. The laptop screen went blank. His heart stopped. He thought he had failed. He thought he had destroyed it. Then the screen flickered back on. The diagnostic program had crashed. But was the patch in the combine system? There was only one way to know. He disconnected the tough book. He put his hand on the key. He turned it. The diesel engine roared to life, just as it had before. The error code was still on the screen. He took another breath. He reached for the button to engage the header. His hand trembled. He pushed it. He heard a click. Then the deep hydraulic hum of the machinery engaging. The header whirred. The auger turned. The combine was alive. It was working. The error code was still there, a ghost on the screen. But the lock was gone. Leo leaned his forehead against the steering wheel. He felt 5 days of tension drain out of him. He felt the exhaustion. But underneath it, he felt a spark, a cold, clean anger. They had tried to charge his mother $9,500 for 17 lines of code. He had done it with a $40 laptop. He walked back to the house. His mother was at the kitchen table. She looked up. He didn't have to say anything. She knew. She just smiled, a small, tired smile. "Let's get the crop in," she said. The news traveled the way news does in a small town, over coffee at the diner, over the counter at the co-op. Sarah Jensen's boy fixed the combine, did it himself, with a laptop. Some were impressed. Her neighbor to the north, a man named George, came over. He was in his 70s, farmed the same land his great-grandfather had. He looked at the combine. He looked at Leo. He said, "Your dad would be proud." Then he asked, "I've got a planter that's been giving me fits, an air seeder. The dealership says it's the control module. $5,000 for a new one. You think you could take a look?" Leo said he would try, but there were doubters too. At the grain elevator, Leo overheard two other farmers talking. They didn't know he was there. One said, "He's playing with fire. He'll brick one of those machines for good. Then what?" The other one nodded. "Frank over at the dealership told me. That kid is bypassing all the safety protocols. Someone's going to get hurt." They weren't being malicious. They were just repeating the conventional wisdom, the wisdom that came from the experts, the wisdom that said a 19-year-old in a barn couldn't possibly know more than a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Certainty. It was a comfortable thing. Leo ignored them. He looked at George's planter. It took him a week. The software was different. The problem was more complex. But he figured it out. It wasn't the control module. It was a single corrupted line of code in a software update. He fixed it. He didn't charge George a dime. George tried to pay him. Leo refused. George came back the next day with 2 thick-cut ribeye steaks from a steer he'd raised himself. "This," he said, "is not payment. This is gratitude. Don't you dare refuse it." Leo accepted the steaks. And that's when he knew this was bigger than one combine. This was about a community. Let me tell you about the next 5 years, because this is where the story of one boy in a barn becomes something else entirely. It started slowly. The rest of 2023 was just helping neighbors. A sprayer here, a tractor there. He never asked for money. They paid him in food, in diesel fuel, in help during harvest. The old currency of a farm community. By 2024, word had spread to the next county. He was getting calls from farmers he'd never met. He couldn't drive to all of them, so he spent the winter building something new. He took his raw code, his messy scripts and notes, and he built a simple software program, a program that other people could use. He gave it a simple interface, point and click. He built a basic website. He uploaded the program. He called it the Sarah System, in honor of his mother. He put it online for free. By the end of 2024, it had been downloaded over 500 times. He started getting emails, thank you notes from strangers, a dairy farmer in Wisconsin, a wheat grower in Kansas, a cotton farmer in Mississippi, all with the same story. "My machine was locked. The dealer quoted me a fortune. Your software fixed it in 20 minutes. Thank you." He bought a new piece of equipment for the farm that year, a new planter. He paid with cash. In 2025, things accelerated. A writer for a national farm journal found the website. He wrote an article, a small article on the back page. "The Teenager Who's Unlocking America's Tractors." The story got picked up. It went viral in the rural parts of the internet. The downloads jumped from 500 to 10,000 in a month. That's when the letter came, from a law firm in Chicago, a cease and desist letter, on behalf of the John Deere Corporation. It said he was infringing on their intellectual property, that he was inducing copyright violation. It said he had to take down the website immediately, or face legal action. Leo read the letter 3 times. He showed it to his mother. She read it. She put it on the kitchen table. "What does this feel like?" she asked. Leo said, "It feels like they're scared." She nodded. "Good." Leo didn't hire a lawyer. He scanned the letter, and he posted it on his website, for everyone to see. That was the moment the rebellion became a movement. The story exploded. Donations started pouring in. $5 from a farmer in Nebraska, $20 from a mechanic in Texas, $100 from a small farming co-op in California. It was enough to hire a lawyer. A young lawyer from a nonprofit called the Digital Right to Repair Coalition. They fought back. By 2026, the downloads hit 20,000. Leo wasn't just a kid in a barn anymore. He was the face of a movement. He used the donation money to form a nonprofit, the Sarah Foundation for Agricultural Sovereignty. He hired 2 of his friends from his aborted computer science degree, They moved into the old farmhouse. They turned the living room into a command center. They expanded the software. They cracked the codes for Case IH, for New Holland. They worked 18-hour days, fueled by cheap coffee and a sense of purpose. They bought another 160 acres that year, land that bordered their farm. The owner was retiring. He sold it to them directly, no real estate agent. He said he wanted the land to go to someone who deserved it. They paid with cash. By 2027, they had 40,000 users. The Sarah system was a tool, but it was also a symbol of independence. A state senator from a rural district called. She wanted to talk about a right to repair bill. She wanted Leo to testify, to tell his story. He drove to the state capitol. He wore a clean shirt and his work boots. He stood in front of a committee of politicians in suits. He didn't give a speech. He just told them what happened. He told them about the combine, about the error code, about the $9,500 quote. He was quiet. He was factual. He was devastating. All the while, Frank watched from a distance. He saw the article in the Farm Journal. He heard the farmers talking at the diner. He saw the Jensen's new land, the new grain silos they built. He saw the traffic to his service department change. Fewer calls about software issues. More calls about real, physical breakdowns. The kind of work you do with a wrench, not a laptop. His bosses were angry. They saw Leo as a threat. Frank wasn't sure what he saw him as. He just knew that the world he had understood for 40 years was changing. The certainty was cracking. And then came the reckoning. Not in a courtroom, not in a boardroom, but on a dusty farm road, in the seat of a combine. Frank retired in the spring of 2028. He got a gold watch and a nice dinner. He started helping his son on their family farm. It felt good to be back on the land, to have dirt under his fingernails again. He bought a used combine, a 5-year-old Case IH. He didn't buy it from his old dealership. He couldn't bring himself to do that. He bought it at an auction. It ran well, for a while. Then, one afternoon in September, it stopped. An error code flashed on the screen. Engine performance derated. Limp mode. Frank knew what it was. A sensor issue. A software lock. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. He called the local Case IH dealer. A young service manager, someone he didn't know, answered the phone. Frank explained the problem. The young man was brisk, efficient. He said it sounded like a firmware problem. He said they'd have to tow it in. He said their diagnostic and unlock package started at $10,000, but it could be more, depending on what they found. His voice was not kind. It was not concerned. It was the voice of a man who had the only key, and knew it. Frank hung up the phone. He sat in the cab of the silent machine. He looked out over his son's field of corn, ready for harvest. And for the first time, he understood. He understood what Sarah Jensen must have felt, sitting in his office 5 years ago. The helplessness, the quiet indignation. His son drove up in the pickup truck. He saw the look on his father's face. "What did they say?" he asked. Frank told him. $10,000. His son just nodded. He went to the truck. He came back with a laptop, a modern, sleek machine. He opened a panel in the combine. He plugged a cable in. Frank watched him. "What are you doing?" he asked. His son didn't look up from the screen. "I'm fixing it," he said. He opened a program. The logo appeared on the screen. A simple, stylized letter S. The Sarah system. Frank felt the air leave his lungs. He watched his son's fingers move on the keyboard. He saw the lines of data stream across the screen. It was a language he did not understand, but he understood the meaning. 15 minutes later, his son unplugged the laptop. "Try it now," he said. Frank turned the key. The engine started. The error code was gone. The machine was unlocked. His son packed up the laptop. He looked at his father. He didn't gloat. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just said, It's free. Leo Jensen puts it online for free for everyone. Frank sat there, in the driver's seat of his own machine. A machine brought back to life by the boy he had once told no. A quiet devastation. There is no justice like the justice that comes quietly, without a word. The justice of a problem being solved by the very person you were certain couldn't solve it. Frank got out of the combine. He looked at his son. He said, "Thank you." Then he walked to his truck and drove home. He had a phone call to make. The legacy of a thing is not what it is. It's what it creates. The SARA system fixed combines, but it created something much bigger. The SARA Foundation, funded by small donations from thousands of farmers, doesn't just maintain the software. It teaches. It funds scholarships for kids from rural towns, kids who want to study computer science or engineering. It runs workshops in FFA chapters and 4-H clubs, teaching young farmers how to code, how to diagnose their own equipment. It lobbies for right-to-repair legislation. And in 2029, with Leo Jensen testifying again, Iowa becomes the 4th state in the country to pass a comprehensive bill. It requires manufacturers to make diagnostic tools and software available to the public at a fair price. The work is no longer a rebellion. It is the law. Leo never got rich. He takes a modest salary from the foundation. Most of the money goes back into the work. The farm is still the center of his world. His mother, Sarah, still lives in the house. She runs the books for the foundation. She answers the emails from farmers. The work is enough. In the County Historical Museum, in a small glass case, sits a gray, beat-up laptop, a Panasonic Toughbook CF31. The plastic is scratched. A small crack runs across the corner of the screen. It is open to a black screen with green text, 17 lines of code. The plaque next to it is simple: the $40 laptop that unlocked a harvest. Sometimes, an old woman brings her grandchildren to the museum. She stands in front of the case. Her granddaughter asks, "What is it?" "It's a key," the woman says. "Your uncle built a key because someone once told him the door was locked forever." She puts her hand on the glass. She remembers the silence in the truck on the drive home from the dealership. She remembers the look in her son's eyes. She remembers the feeling of the first kernel of corn hitting the grain tank, after the machine came back to life. A feeling of quiet triumph. The feeling of work that was, finally, enough. The world is full of locked doors, and people who tell you the key is too expensive, or too complicated, or not for you to have. They are not always cruel people. Sometimes they are kind. Sometimes they are certain they are protecting you. And that is the most dangerous limitation of all. The one you are offered by someone who thinks they are helping. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is sitting at a kitchen table. They have just been told no. They are facing a problem that seems impossible, and they are making a quiet decision to get to work. This story is not about a combine. It is about the fundamental right to understand the world around you, to open the black box, to fix your own tools, to own the things you have paid for. If this story means something to you, if you believe in the power of a quiet decision made in a barn, subscribe to this channel. And if you know someone who has been told they can't, someone who is fighting a lonely fight against a locked door, share this story with them. Because sometimes, all we need to know is that we are not alone, and that the work, in the end, is always enough.